The setting is Auschwitz, one of the most infamous Nazi death camps of World War II. Sophie has just arrived with her 2 children, a 7-year-old girl named Eva and a 10-year-old boy, Jan. Now, a sadistic doctor stands before them, weighing their fate in his mind. He glances at the quivering children and then focuses on Sophie to deliver his verdict. You may keep 1 of your children. What? Said Sophie, almost breathless. You may keep 1 of your children, he repeated. The other one will have to go. Which one will you keep? You mean I have to choose? Sophie crumbled. Then she began to scream. The doctor was aware of unwanted attention. Hurry now and choose. Choose, or I'll send them both over there, quick. This unforgettable scene from William Styron's haunting book, Sophie's Choice, is a perfect example of senseless evil. In America today, many people would hear this example and immediately use as proof that God does not exist. After all, how could a loving God stand by and watch as atrocities are committed? On the surface, it appears that something is wrong with the traditional Christian view of God. In today's speech, I'm going to show how evil, by definition, fits into God's original, perfect creation. Then show what those who believe in evil must also assume. And finally, explore the hopelessness of a world without God. I want to show beyond a doubt that although atheism often appears to have answers, and sometimes presents evil's existence as the ultimate disproof of God, in reality, the existence of evil demands a God. In fact, only theists can coherently speak about evil without contradicting themselves. Lastly, I want to make it personal. For both the believer and the skeptic, evil presents a choice. I'm going to challenge you to make that decision and then live accordingly. First, let's define evil. Now, many people view evil as something similar to a dark, slimy glove which maliciously attaches itself to its victims and forces them to do terrible things. The problem is that the God of the Bible is portrayed as the creator of all things. They would reason, if evil is something, then God must have created it. Most would agree that evil exists. We see it everywhere we look, from the Holocaust to Ted Bundy. Therefore, if God created evil, he must be evil himself. However, evil is not a thing. It has no physical aspect. For example, your shadow is not a little patch of darkness attached to your feet, like a Peter Pan. Your shadow is merely an absence of light, a place where light cannot reach. In the same way, evil is an absence of good. God did not create evil. Evil came into existence when God's original, perfect creation was marred by sin. Evil is a perversion of good. St. Augustine once said that there is no possible source of evil except good. Secondly, let's explore the assumptions behind evil. In the first place, affirming the veracity of evil demands further belief. As St. Augustine implied, there is an intimate relationship between good and evil. Synonyms like impurity, unrighteousness, and immorality show that evil cannot exist without good. None of these terms make sense if good does not exist. Evil assumes good. Consequently, if both good and evil exist, then there must be a moral standard to differentiate. Furthermore, that standard must embody more than just cultural norms. In America, for example, it's considered a good deed to give a neighbor a gift when they move in. Among the African headhunters, however, the act of eating one's neighbor is considered normal, even admirable. No one defends cannibalism, yet someone hesitates to call it wrong. They would reason that because their culture views it as acceptable, it must not be evil. However, with that reasoning, any atrocity can be defended. If some societies give gifts to new members while others eat them, then obviously right and wrong must be more than just cultural. Too often, people attempt to mask evil behind the disguise of cultural norms. Extreme examples, like the one just stated, show that evil is evil, even if it is an accepted part of our life. The difference between Mother Teresa and Hitler is clearly much more than their native culture. To reiterate, good and evil exist as a moral standard. Furthermore, that standard must be absolute. Hitler was evil, and Mother Teresa was good, not because our culture agrees on that, but because of the absolute moral standard. By its very definition, this absolute transcendent standard demands a transcendent source. God, only an all-powerful, omniscient being, could create a standard which applies to all humanity equally. When it comes down to it, then, evil assumes God. Haiti has always been a poor country, one which seems to attract disaster. On January 12th, just before 5 p.m., a 7.0 magnitude earthquake hit Haiti, its largest quake in a century. Tens, even hundreds of thousands lost their lives. The capital city was decimated, and Haiti's government is reeling. Hit hardest, though, were the children. Many newly orphaned, some still bleeding from falling debris, they wander the streets. Futilely searching for food or water, their hopeless faces haunt all who witness them. Even as relief continues to flow in, it's obvious that the damage done to these children, their lives, even their country, will not be repaired quickly. For the Haitians, the situation is seemingly hopeless. In the Count of Monte Cristo, Dante, the protagonist, finds himself wrongfully accused and imprisoned on his wedding day. His captors, driven by greed and ambition, ignore the young man, and Dante languishes in a prison for many long years. Upon his escape, he returns home, only to find that his bride has long since married another. These stories, and others like them, show in painful detail how meaningless life is without a source of hope. Christian apologist Gray Kugel hits the heart of the issue in his article, A Good Reason for Evil. Quote, "If you conclude there's no God because of the existence of evil, then there's no possibility of ever redeeming that evil for good. British philosopher Bertrand Russell once said that no one can sit at the bedside of a dying child and still believe in God. My response to Mr. Russell is, what would you say to a dying child? What could an atheist say? Too bad? Tough luck? Bum deal? You see, in that circumstance, there's no possibility of redemption for that evil. In fact, it doesn't seem to make sense to even call it evil at all, if there is no God." Unquote. As touched on earlier, God originally created the world good. However, he also created humanity with moral freedom, the ability to choose between doing right or wrong. When we willingly denied God to achieve independence, the ability to pursue the evil in our hearts, evil marred creation, and the world was crippled. A crippled world creates crippled people and crippled situations. Evil's existence is not God's fault, but ours. He allows it to exist in order to redeem it for good. To reiterate, we have defined evil, followed its assumptions to a logical end, and explored a world without God. What of hopelessness and despair? To conclude, we must return to Sophie's story. Confronted with the knowledge that both her children were faced with imminent death, Sophie made an impossible, horrible choice. Years later, as she recounted the story, Sophie spoke in a monotone of how she gave the word and sacrificed her daughter to save Jane. Evil was dragged, screaming, to the furnace. Jane was taken to the children's. She spoke of the permeating disease and filth which claimed Jane's life as well. Most of all, she revealed the horror, the abject evil of Auschwitz. Sophie's story ends with the cyanide, the ultimate expression of hopelessness. Apart from God, life is hopeless. Sophie's choice was utterly impossible, but you have an extremely reasonable choice. Either you can believe in God and his desire to redeem the evil around us for good, or you can ignore the proofs which are so evident in creation and deny God's existence, and with it, the one true chance for evil's redemption. Furthermore, as Christians, we must be courageous in defense of our faith. There are strong answers to all the objections atheists raise. The truth is that atheism has issues which it must answer itself. If God does not exist, does that mean there is no evil? I challenge both you and myself to confront the skeptics and force them to address their own logical fallacies. Above all, remember, as Ivan Karamazov implied in The Brothers Karamazov, if God does not exist, everything is permitted. In fact, if God does not exist, then everything is hopeless. God alone gives life meaning in a world of despair.